All right, let's just jump right into this explainer by asking a pretty critical question about your mobile app's user experience. As developers, we put a massive amount of effort into our back-end logic, but at the end of the day, the way our users interact with the interface, that is what truly defines their impression of our work.
So how exactly do you build fluid, modern bottom sheets in B4X? If you're still relying on those rigid, traditional modal pop-ups, the kind that completely jolt a user out of their workflow with a clunky dialog box, well, you're definitely going to find this interesting. Today, we're exploring how the B4XDaisySheetModal component tackles this exact problem, giving your UI a much more native, fluid feel.
Here's our roadmap for today. 1. Meet the DaisySheetModal. 2. Mastering breakpoints and snapping. 3. Dynamic auto-height content. 4. The iOS card effect. And finally, 5. Customizing backdrops and behavior. Let's get to it. Section 1. Meet the DaisySheetModal, a truly modern UI component.
Take the online modal configuration, for instance. Notice how clean and open the interface feels. Instead of a cramped alert box just floating awkwardly in the middle of the screen, this modal acts as a smooth, full-screen entry form. It gives users the breathing room they need without actually losing the context of the app underneath. It feels native, it feels modern, and honestly, it just helps maintain user focus.
Moving right along to Section 2, breakpoints and snapping. Let's master those interactions.
The core concept driving all this interactive magic actually relies on breakpoints. Think of breakpoints as magnetic snapping points. They're simply defined as a specific ratio of your page's height, going all the way from 0.0, which is fully closed, to 1.0, which is fully open. These breakpoints dictate exactly how much of the screen your sheet should cover when the user interacts with it. What's absolutely crucial here is how elegantly simple this logic is to implement on the dev side. You literally just pass a list of ratios as a comma-separated string. So, for example, 0.0, 0.5, 1.0. You also set an initial breakpoint so the view knows exactly where to land on first load. But here is where it gets incredibly clever. The back-end engine actually tracks the velocity of the gesture. It actively predicts the user's swipe momentum to flawlessly snap to the closest available ratio. If a user swipes fast, it overshoots and snaps right to the next point.
So by setting up ratios like 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and a full 1.0, a user can casually swipe up or down, and the sheet just flawlessly rubber bands into those exact height intervals. It feels incredibly satisfying and precise.
But hey, gestures aren't the only way to navigate. By setting the handle behavior property to cycle, you give users a one-touch alternative. A simple tap on the top drag handle pill instantly jumps the modal sequentially forward through your defined breakpoints. It's absolutely perfect for accessibility and, one-handed phone use.
All right, Section 3. Dynamic auto-height content. Let's talk dynamic sizing. When you use this component and set the auto-height property to true, it basically does all the heavy lifting for you. The component recursively measures all of its child views, every single piece of text, every button, and it figures out the bottom bounds perfectly. The modal automatically sizes its own height to fit exactly what's inside. No manual math, no rigid pixel values required. It just fits perfectly, every single time. Which brings us to Section 4, the iOS card effect. Time to add some serious visual depth. Let's contrast standard modals with card modals for a second. A standard modal, it simply floats directly on top of your current screen, which is perfectly fine, but maybe a bit flat. A card modal, however, actively scales, dims, and physically pushes the main presenting app view into the background. It creates this incredible visual depth, immediately establishing a clear hierarchy that the sheet is now the absolute primary focus. By passing your root page view to the Set Presenting View function and flipping on the Scale Background property, the whole dynamic shifts. As the modal rises, your main app smoothly scales back, translates downward just a bit, and dims. It immediately establishes that visual hierarchy we talked about and massively elevates the production value of your B4X application.
Now, to ensure you have absolute control over these interactions, the component exposes the complete modal gesture lifecycle. Step 1 is drag start. Step 2 is drag move, which continuously emits Y position and velocity data. And step 3 is drag end, where the gesture releases and the sheet calculates its snap. This basically means you can tie your very own custom animations directly to the exact pixel movement of the sheet. How cool is that?
Finally, Section 5, customizing backdrops and behavior.
Let's customize that finish. Consider the backdrop breakpoint property. Normally, a dark overlay, or scrim, fades in the absolute second a modal opens. But here, the backdrop can be configured to hold off on dimming the background until the user actively drags the sheet past the halfway mark. It keeps the background UI feeling fully alive and accessible right up until the modal truly takes over the screen.
And beyond just timing, you have fine-grained designer-level control right out of the box. You can adjust the backdrop opacity, which defaults to 40%. You can tweak the background dim for your card effect, set custom corner radiuses, defaulting to a super smooth 18 dips, and even dial in the exact open and close slide animation time to match your specific brand guidelines perfectly.
And here is a feature that truly separates good UI from great UI. The B4XDaisySheetModal handles Ionic-style nested scrolling. Say you have a scrollable list inside your sheet model, and the user scrolls all the way to the very top of that list and keeps pulling down. The component actually detects this. It instantly hands off the gesture from scrolling the internal list to dragging the actual sheet downwards. It's entirely seamless, and it is exactly what modern mobile users expect.
With tools for magnetic breakpoints, iOS card effects, auto height calculations, and advanced nested scrolling, mapping your interactions to a flawless visual outcome has literally never been easier. So, ditch the clunky dialogues. How are you going to use Daisy Sheet Modals to completely redefine the user experience in your next big update? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and happy coding.